What's good, savages? Welcome to another episode of This Savage Life. Before I get started, I want to thank everybody that took the time to subscribe to SVG TV. If you haven't done so, please check it out and consider it at least. It'd be greatly appreciated. The more subscribers I can get, the more views I can get, the more I can grow this channel, the more content I can push out, the more quality, the more time I can spend on. This is a project. This is something I'm passionate about. So I want to grow this channel as much as possible because I believe that I'm trying to do something good here. And the more people I could reach, the better off I think we can all be. So if you haven't done so yet, please, I ask of you, check out my channel, SVG TV on YouTube. Check it out. For those that have already subscribed, thank you. It's greatly appreciated. You know, sometimes in life, someone tells you something, someone says something, and it just sticks in your head. For one reason or the other, it doesn't matter. It just sticks with you. Twice in my life, someone told me something and someone said something. 2 times I can remember in my life that to this day, in certain situation, when certain things happen to me in my life, I hear that voice. I hear those words clear as day, like the person just spoke to me. I guess they're what we call core memories. I'm going to tell you one of those times that I can remember. One of those things that someone said that to this day sticks with me and kind of molds who I am. Now, obviously, the person that told this to me is a very important person in my life. So it carries more importance to me. The words that were spoken are important, but even more important is who told me those words, for me anyway. When I was, I want to say 13, 14, maybe 1993, 94. And I remember this memory kind of clear as day again. It's just stuck with me. I remember the details about that day. I remember what day of the week we were. It's a Friday. I'm home from school. I'm sitting at my grandma's table. I was eating something. And I don't really remember what the conversation was about, but there was just me and my grandma. And we were talking about something. And I said, "Oh, that's impossible." And she stopped, looked at me, and she said, "You know what, son?" She's like, "In life, there's nothing that's impossible." And then she just kept doing her thing. Now, my grandmother was very quiet, very petite, very kind and docile lady. For those who have known her, met her, you know what I mean. And maybe she didn't really realize what she was doing. What she did and what she was doing was that she was sharing this wisdom with me. Now, I was too young to understand at the time what she was doing. Now, you have to understand that I see my grandmother in a certain way. She's a very important person in my life. And sometimes you want to, in your head, see certain people, who they were. And so I'm not saying that by her saying that in that moment, again, not really sure of the conversation we were having. I just remember her saying clear as day, in life, there's nothing that's impossible. Coming from her, it seemed at that moment out of context because I didn't expect those words to come from her at that moment. And I think that's why that memory stuck with me. I remember trying to argue her point as well, and her just repeating herself. In life, there's nothing that's impossible. Again, wisdom. She's in her late 60s, 70s at this point in life. She was a nurse all of her life. She's seen some shit. She's dealt with some shit, and she has a complete different perspective on life that I have at that point in my life. Again, I think I'm 13, even between 12 and 14. It's, I having a hard time. Pretty sure. I definitely know I was in high school, so early. I think it'll be most likely. Yeah. Anyway, it doesn't matter. And when that happened back then, it was, I think one of the reasons why it kind of stuck in my head was because, again, I don't think I was realizing what was happening at that moment, that she was kind of sharing wisdom with me, and she was trying to maybe teach me to not be so pessimist, to not be so negative or to just believe that anything I want in life, nothing's impossible. I could sit here and try to dissect what it meant from her and how I interpreted them at the moment versus to how I interpret them now. That's the important thing here, because again, at that time, young teenager, I'm like, pfft. And again, I remember trying to argue the point with her and her just repeating herself. So it wasn't until years later that I kind of realized that once in a while, that thought, that moment in time would just pop up in my head. And I was reminded of those words. In life, nothing is impossible. And then again and again, that thought, those words would pop in my head. The more I heard them, the more I believed them. The more every single time that thought, those words popped in my head. And when I say those words, I mean the words clear as they said by my grandmother. And she said them in French. Like she said them like, dans la vie, y a rien d'impossible. That's what I hear in her voice in my head. Dans la vie, y a rien d'impossible. And the more those words would pop in my head, that voice, I started paying attention to the situation I found myself in. And then realizing what she meant, what she was trying to accomplish. So it gives me a wider perspective, a wider understanding on who my grandmother was, even though it's been 10 years since she's passed and I don't have any new memories with her since that point. But I look back on the memories like that moment in time, and I'm able to reflect and analyze and try to understand more in detail in a wider scope who that woman was, because that woman was very important to me in my life, and she molded a lot of who I am, I believe, is from her. And so those words, when they're said to me, are extremely important. When I hear that voice, I pay immediate attention now, because again, it's not like I'm at a point in my life where I've cultivated this person that I am, disciplined, questions everything, questions every single belief that I have almost every single day. I test my resolve, my belief in those things. And those words, that voice, well, they helped me through a lot. And they helped me to accomplish a lot of the things that I thought were impossible. Like that 7-year-old boy in me, the one that saw pro wrestling for the first time when he rented WrestleMania 3 on VHS and fell in love with it. And years later, at the age of 34, was able to accomplish the dream of that 7-year-old boy by becoming a professional wrestler. To that 7-year-old boy, that dream seems impossible. A few years later, a woman would tell me that nothing in life is impossible. And then 20 years after that, I stepped into that ring. And yeah, it's surreal sometimes when I think about it, because I could choose to not put any importance to any of these things. And I could choose to just go, yeah, that's the life you forge for yourself. Those words have nothing to do with it. Those experiences have nothing to do with it. But I don't believe that's true. I believe that the belief in those things, in those words, and what they mean, and the importance that they carry, I think I'm an example of that. Again, I'm not saying here it's hard for me sometimes to say those things like, I have accomplished a lot. I believe I have. Now, if I compare myself to certain people, I haven't accomplished much. But if I compare myself to myself, if I compare myself to who I was in that dark time of depression and anxiety and questioning my existence and wondering if I had any part in this world, if I compare myself right here, right now, today, compared to that guy that was real close to giving up on everything, I have accomplished a lot. And I'm extremely proud of myself. And I believe that it's because I put importance in things like nothing in life is impossible. By putting importance on those words, on that voice that I hear to this day. Those words, that voice carried me through difficult, dark times in my life. They are not the only words, there are others. But that one is the most important, because those words, that voice, gave me permission to dream, gave me permission to not only dream, but to chase those dreams, no matter what people thought, no matter how much people critiqued, no matter how much people believe I was wasting my time, those words gave me permission, that voice. It gave me permission to chase those dreams, to do everything I possibly can to accomplish them. And for that, I am extremely, extremely grateful, just for that small moment in time where my grandmother told me, dans la vie, il n'y a rien d'impossible. For everyone that's still listening, I appreciate you. Much love. Stay savage.